Hello, everyone. Peter Maravellis here. We are back. What a remarkable morning and afternoon this has been. As we wrap things up, I'd like to take a moment to thank you all for joining us and participating in this really vital and very, very stimulating event. City Lights would like to take this moment to thank our partners and co-sponsors at University of San Francisco School of Education and Refugee and Immigrant Transitions. Our gratitude goes out to Monisha Bajaj and Jane Park for all their efforts in making today a reality, and everyone else who's been behind the scenes. This has really been fantastic. So many, great conversations and so much going on in the chat, and it's just been wonderful. Really, it's been such a pleasure and much respect and gratitude to everyone today. As always, I want to point out, we are beaming to you from the unceded ancestral grounds of the Ohlone peoples, also known as the San Francisco Bay Area. I'd like to take this moment to acknowledge those who have come before us as stewards of the land, past, present, and future. So our closing plenary today is titled Advancing Justice, a Call to Action. In this closing session, the authors and facilitators of today's proceedings are going to offer closing remarks and calls to action for improving education for immigrant and refugee students. Those of you joining us will be invited to learn more about communities of practice for educators and resources that can offer insights and helpful perspectives. At the end, we will be closing our day's proceedings with a poem by Nadia. We're so happy again to have her with us. Very appreciative to her for being here with us. So to open this final session, please welcome now Jane to start it up.
Yeah, thank you so much, Peter, and an enormous thanks to you as well for being an integral part in this, a pioneer in so many ways. We're just so grateful for all your work and advocacy in this space and abroad. We've got about 25 minutes for this closing session, and we'll call upon each author who was able to join us, as well as the facilitator of the 3 breakout groups, to share a closing reflection and or a call to action, and we'll go in the order of the agenda. So Joe, I know you have to go first, so please take it away.
So yes, I mean, a call to action, it matters in terms of the barriers to enrollment that we put up for all students, particularly students who are coming from foreign lands. So something you could do, you could look on your local school district's website, see if they ask for something that just doesn't sound right, that sounds way too restrictive, or if they put an age restriction that doesn't match the maximum age of enrollment in your state. That's something easy to call out the school board on and alert them to, that they might not be following these practices. And just keep these students top of mind, your most vulnerable students in your school district, advocate for them, even if you're not directly related to the community, because none of us is free unless all of us are free. So it's our job to make that happen.
None of us are free until all of us are free. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Joe, for all that you do in this world. Emily was not able to join us, so I'll pass it on to Monisha to represent the great quad, Monisha, Daniel, Lesley, and Gabby.
Thank you so much. And this has just been such an inspiring few hours. Thank you to everyone who joined us. I'll just say it's similar to what Joe's saying. These students matter, their goals matter, their lives matter, their stories matter, their futures matter, and they deserve all the resources that we have to put in their direction and put them in a way that is humanizing, in a way that honors and respects who they are, that honors their human dignity and their rights as human beings. And just because someone has crossed a border doesn't mean that they are less worthy of rights or of resources, of our attention. And I think there is this kind of dehumanization that happens in our systems where people get warehoused in situations where they aren't given the best teachers or the best resources or the best of what we have. And I just want us to think about what it means to be a nation of immigrants on stolen land, and how we focus on the stories of this country and, who was here first, as Peter has so beautifully done a land acknowledgement, but also that everybody has come from somewhere, if you're not Indigenous. And how do we honor the fact that the people who are fleeing for safety and security, they're no different than the ancestors of many people who dehumanize and demonize these people that are coming, seeking safety, seeking refuge, and seeking just to live and to live in dignity. So let's remember the stories that we've heard today and really think about how we do better in our systems, in our classrooms, in our schools. And I think all 3 of the books we've talked about and the resources that so many folks here have developed, we just hope we can keep amplifying and sharing those as widely as possible. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much, Monisha. I'll move on to our breakout groups then. So for our first one, supporting SLIFE students, either Lisa and or Danny, please.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. I'm going to speak on behalf of the group as best as I can. So we actually heard from both Yvonne and Lisa about their own calls to action, given the seats that they occupy. Yvonne spoke as a classroom teacher and called for us to advocate both inside and outside of the classroom and to speak appropriately for students when that need arises. She encouraged teachers to go beyond the curriculum and to question and to not be afraid to experiment. And Lisa spoke on from the perspective of state level policy advocacy in New York State, where Lisa does much of her work. There is a SLIFE definition and recognition, and that's particularly important. If that doesn't exist, there's state level advocacy that needs to happen. And one of our participants also raised the fact that we need to advocate for more bilingual programs. They tend to be disappearing. And so that is our call to action.
Thank you so much, Danny. Gabby, I think you're representing your group with Sailaja.
Yes, thank you. So during our groups, we were able to highlight 4 of the profiles from the book that we wrote with Monisha and Danny and Lesley. And so we talked about the different stories of these 4 former students, their stressors, and also the action that the school took and what kind of services were provided to the students according to their needs. And I just, based on our conversations and all of that, I just want to remind every one of you that building strong connections and partnerships with our community partners is key in providing the support for students like myself, like Jyoti, like Pooja, that we're able to join you guys here today. So yeah, just make sure that you have, the building those strong partnerships with the community in order to provide those services for students is key. And also, I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming here, because that speaks a lot about how much you care for students like us. And thank you for all of the support that you do and provide for us. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Gabby, and thank you for the knowledge that you bring to us as well. I think Kajal will be representing the last group, Intergroup Tensions and Possibilities with Jyoti.
Thank you, Jane, and thank you everyone for being here. We ran out of time, but we had some great conversations in our group regarding scenarios of intergroup tensions and how we can approach it as administrators, as teachers, and sort of the spaces where it can be given to newcomer students for exploring to express themselves culturally, their uniqueness and what they bring to our communities and society. Many of our participants talked about restorative justice practices, especially when there are intergroup conflicts. They talked about how as adults and as administrators and as teachers, we can do a better job of familiarizing ourselves with cultural practices and norms and sort of restorative responses we can have when intergroup tensions rises. And lastly, I just want to add that I want to invite everybody to be curious about our students' stories and partner up with our newcomer students, because they bring a lot to the table. Many of them come with leadership skills, actually. So to recognize that even when tensions happen, to recognize their strength and their ability and bring them to the table and partner up with them to address any conflict, but also to address community needs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kajal. What a great way to sum it up. And I also want to call in, I think, Pooja Mullins's comment referring to something Monisha said earlier, that line, nation of immigrants on stolen land, these interconnections between our communities, not only newcomers, but between migrant and indigenous communities as well, and how essential that is. I'd love to take a minute to thread some of the conversations I've heard and do it in the framework of critical refugee studies, which is an area that I study and really encourages us to shift the way that we work with and think about refugee and immigrant communities away from refugees as bodies and problems to be solved, but rather through their subjectivities, expose root causes to forge displacement, but also systemic barriers, systemic gaps, and systemic inequities. And so to do so, to encourage us to reframe and reimagine how we think in this context about what educational success may mean, to move from a deficit frame to a strengths-based frame, to recognize that there's a lot of agency. If you read Joe Napolitano's book and everybody else's, just the incredible agency that exists. So it's not just about empowering, agency already exists. And sometimes it's about removing those systemic barriers, bridging those gaps, and making those systems more equitable and just, that we need to focus our efforts on. So with that in mind, perhaps as my call to action is always humanize, as the topic of this symposium has been, and also to do so in relation to one another. Let this not be the end of our discussion, but probably the middle or beginning for some, and to continue this, because this cannot stop after today. So just an enormous gratitude to, again, Monisha, who envisioned this, architected this, to Peter, who was just right there with Monisha, helping to create this, to the authors, to the facilitators, and every one of you who are in this room, district leaders, school teachers, students, alum. Your knowledge together is so critical, and also the collaboration that is absolutely necessary if we are going to look at this through an ecosystems lens. The final thing I would say about critical refugee studies is not only to take a critical look at these conversations, but to also bring in the creative works. And so it's my honor again to introduce Nadia to close us off, our Oakland Youth Poet Laureate. Nadia, if you can close us out, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I actually have two poems that I would like to share with you all today. And this first one, I wrote it to my father, and it's called Arabian Nights, spelled with a K. And I'll just jump right into this. Now, when I say my pops is strong, I'm not talking Papa Shango placing curses with muscles at crossroads. I'm saying he crossed roads and brought the desert heat like Wade in Miami at 6 years old. Left home to become a man, hand in hand with older brothers, a clot of blood, veins like roots, grounding them to their homeland, extending to new opportunities, growing like the dragon blood trees and coffee beans. Ancestry reaches to pharaohs and Salahuddin, Arabian Nights with an American dream. My father, sharper than the blade of a djembia, mind and heart as open as the Red Sea, yet they don't see your therapist badge, so they ask where your lift sticker is, but you still give a chip-toothed smile, never questioning if the struggle was worthwhile, even if you can't read the alphabet that slips off your mother's tongue, and she can't function alone outside the house since she never learned the country's favored language. And you'll always be the other for both the color of your skin and your feared religion. In a nation of peacocks, you're but a pigeon, and if you were European, you'd be a dove. But your daughters see none of the above. Our Arabian night, appointed by God to be our protector, our painted picture of what a man is, no matter what section of the earth you were born in. Whether you pray on your knees or with your forehead to the ground, we are proud to be yours, the daughters of a warrior, battling biases and discrimination every day. Your armor may dent, but never will it break. Our Arabian night, who pushes us to believe that we can make a difference and that there is no limit to what we can achieve. When I say my pops is strong, I'm not talking Papa Shango placing curses with muscles at crossroads. I'm saying he crossed roads, lands, and seas to give his loved ones more opportunities, raised in a country of free speech I'll take advantage of to free my homeland and pray that one day we'll return to the sand. But until then, I'll bring your attention to my people. I will demand that these Arabian Nights are seen as your equals. And this final poem is called Product of a Blended Culture. What is culture to a blend like me? A lemon tree bearing ripe dates, purple Jacksons with 30 faces, dirty as gums yet clean as untouched marble. Is it malahis and jubanis, sabaya, baklava, wa asid, or is it the lamb arteries painted above my door? Is it my Middle Eastern brain or my contrasting cream skin? 18 years of wondering if I shall be left toothless beneath the dragon blood tree, unfit for my body, so I twist like my values. I creep on ostrich eggshells, worried to roll a snake eyes with fear of getting my parcel tongue slit. I speak in unmatchable tones, so I'm going to take a minute like Canaan to tell the people like me that I come prepared. I come from wedding halls and immortal technique, Biddy Paz, Mac Dre, Mr. Fab, and Keek the Sneak. I come from sand dunes and dirt roads, algebra, coffee, and stolen domes, yet I feel like I'm fake repping a set, unaccustomed to my family's speech, the baboon race in a cage, and able to feel the air her father first breathed. I am a seam, the split in between two seas, the slit near identity's thigh, waking up and having to choose which side I'll be today, the Arab with the morals or the American with the weighted pain. I live a burnt reality, skin scorched and bubbly with goosebumps as my inverse relationship demands closeness to my ancestry, stepping stone shortage, each knob locking me out from the home I wish to lay my head. The oryx within gallops to each crevice, pressing its ear to soak in what it can before realizing it is a sponge that will soon release its contents into Tartarus, responding occasionally just to be slaughtered upon its return. I'd conceal my tresses in exchange for tenderness, but when met with the desert, all they see is the eagle's aim. So again, I must decide, this time between dilated pupils and religious shame. It's become my responsibility to merge so my sister won't have to. Laying petals before her as my heels filled with rusted nails, a sacrifice I'm willing to make until my bones are caked with soil. For her, I will push through the turmoil. I will take my 13 carpets engraved with evil eyes and fly her through my experiences. I will continue to pave a path towards my own grave just to make sure her heart won't bleed the same. Products of a blended culture. We all stress trying to figure out who to be and who to please. So it's time to embrace all of who we are, each characteristic that deems us complete. We are complete and we are seen. Thank you very much.
Nadia, thank you so much. Maybe unconventional, may I ask that we all take a collective deep breath? This is something I do sometimes at the beginning of a meeting, but at the end of the session, I think Nadia's really powerful words. If you could just breathe in, not only the words, but the essence of what she just shared with us. My heart is pounding, Nadia. Just take a moment to take a deep breath and soak it in. Thank you. And again, very big gratitude to all of you for joining us today. And again, to the architects of today's program, Monisha and Peter, and all that you did and continue to do. Peter, I think Nadia is your next City Lights Poet Laureate. I saw it on your website. You're knocking on her door. Thank you everyone for the honor of being able to moderate today's session. And I'll just hand it right over to you, Peter.
Oh, thank you, Jane. You are the ultimate moderator. Much respect and gratitude to you, to everyone today. I mean, this has been a remarkable, remarkable moment. City Lights hopes to continue the discussions emerging today into the future. Our thanks to our sponsors at USF School of Education and Refugee Immigrant Transitions. They are both doing amazing work. Today's event was made possible by support from the City Lights Foundation, which continues the legacy of our founder, the late Lawrence Ferlinghetti, into the future through public events like this one, our publishing program, community outreach, all dedicated to sustaining a vibrant community of readers, writers, and independent thinkers. Thank you again for joining us, everyone. Please be safe, be well, keep up the good work, and put up the good fight. We hope to see you all again very soon.